The Sikha we will be learning today is in Likutei Sichas Chelik Aleph, the second Sikha to Parshas Mishpatim. Before we start the Sikha, I'm just going to read the Teichon of the Psukim that the Rebbe is going to be talking about. That's towards closer to the end of Parshas Mishpatim. The Torah says, Leib said, "Hini yonechi sheleach malach lefanecha lishmorcha baderech." I'm going to send a malach for you. He will protect you on the way. Ulaviacho el hamokim asher achinesi, and to bring you to the place that I prepared. And then the Torah goes on and saying what's going to happen. He'll come and the Malach is going to destroy the Goyim there, the people who are there and don't worship Rabbi the Zohar. And then the Eibishter says, I'm going to send the Tzira, and they're going to throw out the Chivi, Knani, Chiti. And it's not going to go so fast, because if it goes so fast, then the land will be empty. So what's going to be? Slowly, I'm going to pick them out. They're going to get them out, throw them out, till you will multiply, etc., etc. And the Torah goes on what that is, how the Gvulim of Eretz Yisrael. The main pasuk the Rebbe is going to talk about is that first pasuk that we just mentioned, where it says, Leib said, I'm going to send a malach, as the pasuk says, Yineshaleich malach lefanecha, and Laviacha, to bring you to the place that I prepared. So let's learn the Sikha inside. And the pasuk where it says, the Eibishter said, I'm sending the malach, an angel, in front of you, and to bring you to the place that I prepared. Rasha explains, quotes from the pasuk, two words, asher achinesi. The pasuk says that I prepared. So Rasha adds these words, asher zamanti losis lachem, that I prepared or I designated to give you. Then noch bringt Rasha a zweiten Pirush ketlakam siv beis, and then Rasha brings a second pshat, as the Rebbe will bring a little later, and then a siv beis is going to discuss that pshat. Now we know whenever Rasha gives a comment on a posik, is because Rasha is trying to explain something that without Rasha you wouldn't be sure to know the pshat. So since it needs pshat, Rasha comes to explain. So here too, Rasha explains what does the word asher achinesi mean, that I prepared, and Rasha says it means asher zamanti losis lachem, that I designated to give you. What is Rasha adding to the pasuk? What is it that Rasha has to explain? Some Mefarshim learn the Rom, the Devik, the Ipsif Chachamim. As Rasha Bavon, the Rasha is trying to explain something that's not understood. In pasuk steht asher achinesi stam. Pasuk says to the place that I prepared. He doesn't say in pasuk for who did the Eibishter prepare that place. He just said that I prepared. Rasha explains, Asher, as the Rachinesi is, that this what the pasuk says that I prepared means loses lochem, prepared to give you, which means Rasha adds these words that who did he prepare it from? For you. But the Rebbe says, but still, according to this pshat, there's something that's hard to understand. Why Taka doesn't? The question is, why Taka doesn't the pasuk say that I prepared for you? So to say that the pasuk means, like Rasha says, that I prepared for you, kasha is, why doesn't the pasuk say that? Rasha brings another pshat, as we know that whenever Rasha brings two pshatim, because the first one it's better pshat than the second, but there's still something lacking in the pshat, so bring a second one. Something lacking in the second one, so you bring the first. But in this case, we know what's lacking in the first pshat. That why, if it means that I prepared for you, why doesn't it say that clearly? Therefore, Rasha brings the second pshat as a Rasha Chanesi made. That Chanesi means a different pshat. Chanesi means I prepared made. Kvar mekemi niker kenegdei. That this is a place where that place is already recognized across parallel to what? Which means that this is the place that I prepared, the Beis Hamikdash Shel Maila. It's going on the Beis Hamikdash, and he prepared it, the Maila in heaven, the Eibishter prepared the Beis Hamikdash, which is parallel to the Beis Hamikdash down here. Beis Hamikdash Shel Maila, mechuven connected to Beis Hamikdash Shel Mata. Beis Hamikdash above is mechuven, is exactly right parallel to the Beis Hamikdash down here. To the comments of Beis, as the Rebbe will bring this, the beer in the second pshat, but the Rebbe is just explaining why Rasha brings the second pshat, because the second pshat has a mile over the first. The first is a question, if it means that I prepared for you, why doesn't it say Ziman Tiloch? But like them Pirish, according to the second pshat, is that Rachinesi given Latzmei. It doesn't mean I prepared for you. It means I prepared for myself. That was something that I prepared for myself. The pasuk would have said that I prepared me. And here there is no problem why the Torah doesn't say prepared for me. It doesn't have to say clear. When you say I prepared, not to somebody else, I prepared for myself. So according to the first shot, where it means prepared for you, the question is, why doesn't the Torah say that? But according to the second shot, Hashem saying that I prepared for myself. Because according to the second shot, it means I prepared, which is niked, as Rasha says. It is niked connected. It is obvious, it is recognizable that you prepared it. That's what the pasuk means. That he's talking about taking the Eretz Yisrael, and the place that he prepared was the Beis Hamikdash, Beis Hamikdash Shel Maila. But this is just, by the way, the Rebbe says why we need a second pshat. But he's not trying to explain the second pshat. That he's going to explain a little later. The Pirish is nicht verstanden. But this pshat, that what Rashi is trying to tell us, that when it says I prepared, means I prepared for you. So besides the problem we said in the brackets before, that they should have said that, so that's why you need a second pshat. But the pshat itself, the Rebbe says, besides that, it should have said something else. The pshat itself is not so clear. By number one, Aleph, in derech pshat is l'machatchila nit kashe, was the posuk zog do achinesi stam. The way the Meforshim explain, Rasha has a problem. The posuk says I prepared, and doesn't say prepared for who. So Rasha says it means prepared for you, but that the Rebbe says is not really a shaila. Doesn't have to say that. Val says moving meyela was the achinesi for Eden. It's self-understood that when he says I prepared, it means for the Eden. The Gvem is posuk, considering who it's talking about. The posuk is saying to the Eden that is prepared, that he's taking you into Eretz Yisrael, the place that he prepared. Well, obviously, for who is it? For the ones he's talking to. He's talking to the Eden. He's taken to Eretz Yisrael, to the place that he prepared. Obviously, it's for you. So you can't have a shaila. Cannot say that we don't know. Without Rashi, we wouldn't know who he prepared for. It's obviously prepared for. And it doesn't, and Rashi doesn't have to avoid that it means to you, because it's self-understood that it means for you. So it's a shverikite, a hardship in the first pshat, that Rashi means that to tell you that when he says I prepared, it means prepared for you. Rashi wouldn't have to tell us that. Number two, second question. The if all Rashi is trying to tell us that what it means prepared means to you, so Rashi is very short. Al derech with the loshen for Even HaEzer, the Even HaEzer writes that way. Asher achinesi, I prepare, so he has lochem. I prepared to you. That's all Rashi should have done. Should have written Asher achinesi, if he would want to tell us to who he prepared to. Otherwise, we wouldn't know according to the way the pshat is. And he has to tell us, he should have just said lochem. But what is Rashi? Why does Rashi do it like this? First of all, he's Meirich b'Sheinin. He goes in at length. Instead of just saying the word lochem, he says Asher zomanti loses lochem. So the lochem should have been written, but why does he add the words Asher zomanti loses, that I designated to give? He's not that's not changing it. That's not adding anything. He should have just added. If we don't know to who he prepared, say lochem. Unochmer, even more than that, it is meshane for loshen haposik hachinesi, and who's the word zemanti. Another thing, if he's all trying to tell you that to who did he prepare? Why does Rashi change the loshen? He says Asher zamanti loses lachem, that I designated to give to you. Why doesn't he say the same loshen of the posuk? All he's trying to add is lachem. So first the kasha is, why does he have to add the other words? But even he adds the other words. He should Asher achinesi loses lachem, that I prepared the same loshen of the posuk. Why did he say zamanti? That's concerning the first pshat in Rashi. The nocher Rashi mamsh, the Rashi continues. Zel pshute. This is the posh pshat in posuk. Medrash, the medrash is lamokim asher achinesi. Rashi repeats again the words from the posuk. And the medrash explains what does it mean lamokim asher achinesi, to the place that the eye prepared. Kvar mekemi nikir kenegde, that the place is already nikir. It's recognizable. The place there. V'zeu echad min amikrois. This is one of the psukim which tells us that Beis Hamikdash of above is exactly connected to Beis Hamikdash Shel Mata, and that's what the pasuk means. Asher achinesi means the Beis Hamikdash Shel Maila, that I prepared the Beis Hamikdash Shel Maila, and that is their nikir. You could tell, in other words, whoever is Lamaila, whatever you see Lamaila, there is prepared the Beis Hamikdash Shel Maila, which is connected to Beis Hamikdash Shel Mata. The time for was Rashi is noch einmal meitig the Werte lamokim asher chanesi dem zweiten Pirish. Now, first we have to understand when Rashi says the second pshat medrashe. Why does he repeat in the Rashi the posik, the words again from the posik? After he says this is the pshat, the first pshat is pshat. Then he's a medrashe, the medrash says, and he repeats el lamokim asher chanesi. What does that mean? And he continues. Why does he have to repeat that? We're talking about those words. Why does Rashi have to repeat it? He's moving that we understand. The Ram is to hint as late midrash is glatte kepshat aloshen was the posik zokt alamokim nit aloretz. Trying to tell you that the mila in the second pshat is a mila in the loshen, the words. The posik says aviyacha alamokim, to the place I prepared. Nit aloretz. It doesn't say to the land that I prepared. So according to the first pshat, that means that it's Israel. So we have a question. Why doesn't it say the land? Why does it say the place? We're talking about the prayer that's Israel for the Eden. But according to the second pshat, he's not talking about the land. He's talking to Lamokim, the place that I prepared doesn't mean that it's Israel. Nor to Mokim HaMikdash, or the place of the Mikdash. That's what the Pasuk is Lamokim. So Rashi starts off the second pshat by saying, since the Pasuk says, Elamokim Asher Achinesi, so therefore the second pshat fits better, that it refers to the Beis HaMikdash, which is the Beis HaMikdash Shalmaila, but it's a specific place. So that's a kasha, Rashi, according to the second pshat, this kasha is answered. So l'chure, this is a kasha on the first pshat. According to the first pshat, that it does mean that it's Israel. So why taka does it say lamokim nada la'oretz? So l'chure, this should be a hechrech, something that could prove the first pshat wrong. So the Rebbe says, as much as there's a mile in the second pshat that the word mokim fits better than others, that's why it fits better to the second pshat. But to say that it's a hechrech that shows that the first pshat is wrong, that's not true. We find in other psukim that the whole country is called mokim. The contrary, when you look here, the way the whole psukim are, is a must. As mokim. When it says, I'll bring you to the place, it's not talking about a specific one place within Eretz Yisrael. Talks about Eretz Yisrael. If you look later, you see that he's saying, I'm going to bring you, and they're going to destroy the Goyim, etc., etc. So we see we're talking about the whole country. So it's no problem that it says the word Mokim, even though it means the whole country. So maybe it's not an upshlag on the first shot. The Baal like Midrashay, but because according to the second shot, the Medrash, bites of the Taich of Mokim. So according to the second shot, the Taich of Mokim is changed. According to the first shot, Mokim goes on the whole country. Eretz Yisrael. Second shot, Allah Mokim to the place is changed. It means to the Beis HaMikdash. It's number one. And second, Lefize is glatek in the Loshen Asher Achinesi. And that also fits more to the word Achinesi. The Rebbe didn't say it yet, but he's going to explain later that the word Achinesi fits more according to the second shot. Therefore, Rashi, when he brings the second shot, the Medrash, Rashi repeats the word to tell us that the second shot will fit more to it. Number one, it will fit more to the word Mokim, even though it could be the other way also. The first shot also fits, but it'll fit another shot in the word Mokim. And the word Achinesi, as I'll explain later, that's why Rashi quotes in the Pirush of the second pshat, he writes again the words of Lamokim HaShechnesi. So, and this is the second pshat of Rashi. That the pasuk means the Beis HaMikdash, it's a mikdash that he prepared. And he prepared, as he said before, for himself. That's why there's no problem why he doesn't say who. Because that you don't have to say, I prepared, means for myself, I prepared. That's what the second pshat is. But what we do have to understand Rashi in the second pshat, Rashi adds something. Rashi writes, that this is one of the psukim that tells us that the Beis HaMikdash Shalmaila, the Beis HaMikdash from above, is mechuven keneged, is parallel to the Beis HaMikdash down here. L'chure, was sie don negates zu wissen? Why is it important now to know? Madgish to stress, as is eine Frau noch mikroy shemer Beis HaMikdash Shalmaila chulu. Rashi telling us that there are other psukim that also tell us that the Beis HaMikdash Shalmaila is mechuven parallel to the Beis HaMikdash Shalmaila, and this is one of them. In other words, Rashi is trying to stress, to remind us that this is not the only posuk that tells us that. There are other psukim too. Why is it negated to pshat in this posuk that there are other psukim that also tell us that Beis HaMikdash Shalmaila is mechuven to Beis HaMikdash Shalmaila? We can't say das is aninya was legt sich nicht auf a seichel von aber chamish mikro. You could have answered, such a strange thing to say there's a Beis HaMikdash up there and there's something that's strange. And since Rashi wrote this commentary, even for little children, so a child might, when he hears this, might not understand what that means. So therefore, the farm was Rashi Meis al derech Rashi has to add it. There's another places too. We find a lot of times in Rashi when he says a pshat, and if he doesn't find anywhere in the Torah else that this word means the same thing. He sometimes writes I don't find like a friend. I don't find someplace else like this. And if he does find, sometimes he writes, I did find. So mainly here too, since it's a strange thing, and he wants to explain it to a child, and he thinks the child might not accept it. So that's why he writes that we find it in other places. We find it in other places. And that's common for Rashi to do. And B'meila, that's the answer, maybe the answer to the Shaila, why Rashi writes that this is written also in other psukim. So you can't say that. By Rashi already earlier wrote twice that the inyan that the Beis Hamikdash Shlomayla is mechuven to the Beis Hamikdash Shlomata. Und in jene Erter is Rashi nit meisiv the Werter. And there Rashi doesn't add these words, the raya, the proof that it could be, and this is one of the psukim that teaches the same thing. If Rashi would feel that you have to stress that, he would have stressed it earlier. We know Rashi doesn't rely on something he's going to write later. If this is a problem, that just to say that there's a is a problem, and you have to say that this is true, and we find other places, should have said it earlier. And then he wouldn't have to repeat it again here. What does Rashi do? Earlier, he doesn't say it. So obviously, Rashi doesn't worry that they might not accept it. So why does he say it here? So basically, we have the kasha. Why does Rashi have to add that the same thing is written in other psukim? We have to understand other questions in Rashi, and he's not going to say them all, it seems like. Amongst those questions, I will mention a few. Number one, the Mokif of Madrasha is in Tanchume. The source of Rashi, of this second pshat, the Medrash, that the pasuk means I prepared the Beis Hamikdash Shalmayla connected the Beis Hamikdash Shalmato, is taken from Medrash Tanchume. But dort is the Loshen there, it's not exactly the same Loshen. There it says, that this is one of the psukim that tells us that the Beis Hamikdash down here is mechuven connected the Beis Hamikdash Lamayla, is parallel to Beis Hamikdash above. Why did Rashi change? And he writes that this pasuk is amongst the psukim Beis Hamikdash Lamayla mechuven connected Beis Hamikdash above is connected to Beis Hamikdash down here. And the Tanchuma says that it seems like it's the same thing. They're one mechuven that connected the other. But why in Tanchuma it mentions the one l'mato is connected l'maylo, and in Rashi and Chumash says the one l'maylo is mechuven connected l'mato. There must be a reason why Rashi changes. In other words, I don't know if it would not say in Tanchuma different than Rashi. The Rebbe would have a question: why does Rashi say the one l'maylo is l'mato? Why not? Whichever way you say, you could say l'maylo l'mato, l'mato l'maylo. But since Rashi took it from Tanchuma, in Tanchuma it's the opposite. In Rashi, it's different. Why did Rashi bedafke change it? There must be a reason why Dafke changed it, because according to Pshuta Shel Mikra, that fits better. What's the Maila of saying it, that the Maila is Mechuven Connected Demato? Another question. I said, I Girsa in Rashi. As a Girsa, there's a version in Rashi where the Loshen is like this. Beis Hamikdash Shel Maila Mechuven Connected Shalmata. The Beis Hamikdash above is Mechuven parallel to the one of above, one of below. And that Girsa doesn't say Nit Beis Hamikdash Shalmata. The Beis Hamikdash Shel Maila Mechuven the Lamato. But it doesn't say like in our version of Rashi that Beis Hamikdash Lamayla is mechuven connected to Beis Shamato. So the question is, according to that girsa, Rashi mashmit la girsa zu, why according to that version, that girsa, why does Rashi skip the verte Beis Hamikdash? It doesn't say Beis Hamikdash Shalmata. He says Beis Hamikdash Lamayla mechuven connected Lamata. It doesn't say the word Beis Hamikdash. The Fratas and the Friedrich Tzvei, especially when in the other two places where Rashi says the same idea. Sagt Rashi, Yedem Loshe Beis Hamikdash, Migdash Shalmata. It does say the Loshe Beis Hamikdash Shalmata. Uses the word Beis Hamikdash or Migdash. So how here he doesn't say it according to that girsa. So the beer and them the explanation that is like this. Rashi come to Bavara and Ashai the Pshut in the Verta Shachanesi. What Rashi is coming to do is trying to answer a simple question in the words Asher Hachinesi. And you see, Rashi quotes from the pasuk the words Asher Hachinesi. And Rashi does that whatever he has a problem with. Those are the words that he quotes. So Rashi has a problem with the words. What does Asher Hachanesi mean? Hachone, the word Hachanesi comes from the word Hachone. Hachone badait. Hachone means a bestimmte Änderung in der Sache. When you do a certain change in the thing that you're preparing. Was der mitwärts im Muchen, by doing that, becomes prepared. Royu yumuchshet zum Inyan zu welchem Mizim Mechen. That should be fit to the idea, to the Inyan that you're preparing it for. So the word Hachone, preparing, means that it's done, there's something done in order to prepare it. So when you say you prepare something, you're making it ready. It's not, if there's no change in it, it's not doing anything. You didn't prepare it. Preparing means when you do a maisi, you do something to change it. Stellte die Scheile beneden die Dans, a kasha in here. In was bestanden der Achinesi von Eretz Yisrael, zufnehmen dort die Eden. What did Eibishter mean that going to Eretz Yisrael, the place that I prepared for you? What did Eibishter, where do we see the Eibishter did something to Eretz Yisrael at that point to make it ready for the Eden to go in? Ich finde, dass in Eretz etwas nicht steiner geworden ist, we don't find anything changed in Eretz Yisrael now, the way the situation was before. So what is the possible mean Achinesi? But the contrary, the Teichen von Hemshech HaParsha, if you look into the continuation of the Parsha, is matgish, that whole Hemshech stresses, the land is noch nicht muchen for Eden. How the land is not yet ready, prepared for the Eden. In Eretz Yisrael, the Parsha says there are 7 nations in Eretz Yisrael. Darf sich vertreiben from land. First you got to chase them out of the land. Es darf onkommen losh nosi, like the Pasuk says, you have to come out of a hichadativ. I will destroy them in the future. Agor Shene, I will chase them out. Unochmer, even more than that, this is not boss in Korev. It's not going to be very soon. Es can it sein bekorev. According to what the Pusukim say, it can be so soon. Because the Pasuk says, if I chase them out so soon, the land is going to be desolate, it'll be empty. Slowly I will chase them out. So there was nothing done in Eretz Yisrael now. He's saying, now I prepared them for you. That means I did something to it for you. Is what's meant the posik mit laviachal amok masher chinesi. What the posik? I'll bring you to the place asher hachinesi that I prepared. What did he prepare? What did they wish to do now? Farentvet Rasha. So Rasha answers. Not his point of his answer is not to tell you I prepared it for you, like the other Meforshim say. That we know it was for the Eden. But what did he do? So Rasha answers asher hachinesi. Do the word achinesi here it means nita zu great into chapul a ton. Doesn't mean I prepared it by a did. An act, I did something to it. It's like the word of achone means in many places that you do something. It says in Pasuk, you should be making the food before Shabbos. It means cook the food before Shabbos. Do some making, prepare means to do something. But here it doesn't mean that. Nor asher zemanti losses lachem. That's what asher changes zemanti. Zemanti means I designated. I set aside. Asibleis given a hazmone. It was only a hazmone, a designation, that's all. It doesn't mean, Taka, that I did anything for it. I set it aside for you. Zamanti eich v'loshen zimun einladung. The word zamanti also means inviting. When you send an invitation to somebody, you send a hazmon. Hazmon means an invitation. Doesn't mean I did anything for you. I'm just speaking to you. When you invite a guest, is doch in dem einladen for sich, nicht talking pulus achone. The invitation has nothing that he did to prepare. Later on, you might prepare food for it, whatever it is. But the invitation itself is nothing. You're just designating it. You're just saying, please come. So Hazmone, it means doesn't mean that there was actually something done to change it. That's what Rashi says. But here also, that Eibishter Mazmin given Eretz Yisrael, the Eibishter designated Eretz Yisrael, set aside Eretz Yisrael for the Shpetedik in the Sin for what he's going to do later. Zamanti los Yisrachem. That's what I not prepared, did something to give you, but it means I designated for you. So that's what Rashi comes to answer. That Chanesi here doesn't mean prepared, means designate. That's why Rashi says Zimanti changes the lotion, not like the Kasha Rabbi asked, why did he change from Chanesi to Zimanti? Because that's exactly what Rashi is trying to tell us. It's only a Zimun and not a Hachone. The Baal Leber, the Pirush for Hachone al Pirovi, but since the pshat of the word Hachone, the meaning of the word Hachone generally is Hachshore v'shining the Zach, that you're preparing and you're doing something in the thing. So therefore, that's a flaw, so to speak, in this pshat, because it doesn't fit to the normal taich of achinesi, lachone. That's why when there's something missing in the first pshat, you bring a second pshat. That's what Rashi brings umadrashe, the medrash. According to the medrash, this is not a problem. What does the medrash say means asher achinesi? That I'm going to bring you to the place that achinesi prepared. And according to the second pshat, ataka means prepared. Kfar mekeni, niker kenegde. That goes on the Beis Hamikdash Shalmaila, and there my place is now niked. The Beis Hamikdash Shalmaila is recognizable there, that it's in the place where the Beis Hamikdash Shalmata is going to be. It's like them, Peter, according to the Pshat, yes, I prepared. I made the Beis Hamikdash Shalmaila be there. So something that the Eibush Taka, yes, prepared now. No, not in the Mokim Hamikdash Shalmata, but down here he didn't do anything. You don't see any Beis Hamikdash Shalmata. At that time, you didn't see. So what did he do? No, the Mokim Hamikdash Shalmaila. The Eibush prepared, and in the Beis Hamikdash Shalmaila, there he prepared. That's what Rashi means. Mekay me nikir connected. My place, meaning the place of the Eibishter, where the Eibishter is Lamaila, there it's nikir. There is something, I made it, and I made it nikir that's recognizable, and tak I prepared. My time, therefore, Rashi Medayik should be Samikdash Lamaila, Mechuv connect the Samikdash Shalmata. That's why he writes, not the base like in Tanchume, Samikdash Shalmata is connected Mechuvim to the Beis Hamikdash Shemayla. He starts the other way. Beis Hamikdash Shemayla is Mechuvim Beis Hamikdash Shemata. Meet them verkehrt and say the Kelosh not Tanchum, not the opposite like it says in Tanchume. While they pull us Hachon given in the mort from Hamikdash Shemayla. Because since the second shot is going to learn Hachon means actually did something to prepare. He did nothing down here to prepare. The preparation was done only by Beis Hamikdash Shemayla. As Mekemi, my place, from Mikdash Shemayla, the Beis Hamikdash Shemayla is geworden Nikir connected. Then they became Nikir from the Mikdash. That became Nikki, that there is a Beis Hamikdash Shemayla, and you could tell that it's connected to Beis Hamikdash Shemata. Down here, you can't tell. So you can't say Beis Hamikdash, and Rashi is trying to tell us that according to this pshat, that's something that he did to make it achone. So that he did in Beis Hamikdash Shemayla. And that Beis Hamikdash Shemayla, where did he do it? The place Lamayla, which is Mechuven to the Beis Hamikdash Shemata. Das allein ist aber nicht maßlich, but that's not enough. Weil es nicht mistabert zu sagen, it's not so simple to say. This is the Rebbe prepared the place of the Beis Hamikdash up there. So clearly, Tom can wirken to the Mokem Hamikdash Shalmata, but the connected should not have any effect on the Beis Hamikdash down here. If he made it there, connected, mamish mechuvim connected the Beis Hamikdash Shalmata. So he only did it there, but there's nothing in the Beis Hamikdash Shalmata that changed. It's hard to say. We see by Yankiv, when Yankiv had a dream, he went to sleep in the place with a dream, and he saw the Malachim, and he said, he woke up and he said, Zeh Shara Shemayim. This is the gate to heaven. And Rashi brings to Mershma, that's the place where Rashi for the first time brings a Beis Hamikdash Shemayla Mechuvim Kneged Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash Shemayla is Mechuvim Kneged Beis Hamikdash Shemata. So what does Rashi say? As Yankiv at Margish, what does it mean? Yankiv at Margish given Gluch Samakim Lamata. He felt the holiness. He says, Zeh, Shara Shema. Here I could get to the heaven because I feel a Kedusha here. He said, Man Neiro, Hamokim Azeh. When he woke up, he said, wow, how awesome this place is. This is only a place in the house of God. To get to Shemayim. So you see that because this was Mechuvit, connecting to Shemayla, like Rashi says over there, they felt it down here. So here when David says that I prepared Shemayla, which is connected with Shemata. So why is it not? It's not hard to say. Nothing was felt here. But so therefore, since the posik says that he prepared, and that means the mokim b'samikdash shamayla beifnas kvar mekemi nikir connected, that the place is recognizable, but as gedarb zayin nikir, that must eichen the mokim b'samikdash shalmata. So it should be nikir because he said like I made it there nikir connected. So down here you should see just like Yankov Avinu fell down here. And then Rashi says the same lashon there. So down here he felt it because the Beis Hamikdash Lamayla was there. How does it fit with what the Parsha is trying to tell us? Which is Mutgish as Eretz Yisrael. Dan Klauni given great. The Pasuk is trying to tell us that Eretz Yisrael, including the place of the Beis Hamikdash, were not at all ready. I feel if our B'ez Bnei Yisrael orders, not even ready for the even coming to Eretz Yisrael. Certainly not outside Beis Hamikdash. So how could so as if Rashi has a problem? How could we say this pshat that the Beis Hamikdash Shemayla is mechuvan? That's where he did achone. When down here we don't see an achone. The far is Rashi meisi from Mavayek. That's why Rashi adds and he explains. This is one of the places where one of the psukim that teaches us that Beis Hamikdash Shemayla is mechuvan connected with Shemata. What does that mean? The Mosig meint don't need to sagen as itzdig when achone durch dem was the Beis Hamikdash Shemayla mechuvan connected with Shemata. See, if it would mean that Machinesi means I prepared now the Beis Hamikdash Shemayla, so why didn't we feel it down here? He's not trying to say that now he did it. That Machinesi given Yozem Mekedem. He prepared it a long time ago. Und das ist noch Apostel zwischen andere Friedrich Bekreuz was der Zählung wegen demselben Linien. This is one of the psukim that tell us the general idea. See if we would learn that this is something that happened now, we have a good kasha. Why don't we feel it? So Rashi says, no, this is one of the places where it teaches us that B'chlal, the Beis Hamikdash Shemayla is Mechuv Mishabek Shemagmata. So they prepared it. When they prepare it, not now. If he prepared it now, it wouldn't have felt now. That by Yankov Avinu happened already. So earlier psukim tell us that. So this is one of those psukim. But the Tzelt wegen themselves minion tells us the same minion. A shameful free as before already. is Beis Hamikdash Shamayla mechuvim connected to Beis Hamikdash Shalmata. Beis Hamikdash Shamayla is mechuvim connected to Beis Hamikdash Shalmata. And the Kvar mekem in Niker connected is given from früher, allemal. And this thing in Rashi said that the place is Niker. That's the hachonah that's made, that he made it, that it should be Niker, is not now, always was. That's what Rashi says. It's one of the psukim. It's one. That's what Rashi adds this. So there's no kasha. Why there's no change now? Because there's no change l'mayla either. Whatever he did a long time ago. But how does Rashi tell us that he did it a long time ago? By writing that this is one amongst many of the psukim. This also explains the other version that we said, that Rashi said to be Keneged Shalmata. On the word Beis Hamikdash Shalmata. Without using the words by the mata, it doesn't use the word Beis Hamikdash. According to that version, Girsa. Now we understand that too. The Hadish that stresses the Achone Mokem Hamikdash Shamayla is not verbunden mit Zematzah from Mokem Hamikdash Shalmata. That the Achone that we're talking about there has nothing to do with down here. See, if we would say that he did it now, so if he did it now, it should affect now down here. We're trying to say it has no effect down here. So that's what he's trying to say. He did it a long time ago. So now there is no change down here. The Beis Hamikdash Shamayla is do afilu ben lamata is not talking Beis Hamikdash. It says mechuvin keneged Shalmata. It doesn't say mechuvin keneged Beis Hamikdash Shalmata. Even if there's no Beis Hamikdash down here, it's in a place up there. Mechuvin keneged a certain place down here. It says mechuvin keneged Shalmata. As felt their Beis Hamikdash. You forget, it's not mentioning the word Beis Hamikdash according to that Girsa. To tell us that it's not mechuvin keneged the Beis Hamikdash. When the fire is considering it was alpha PS Makemi, Nika connected. That's why it's no contradiction, even though by place is recognizable. But that's exactly you don't see any change down here, any preparation. In the place of the Beis Hamikdash down here, Goyim were there. The Hepech from Beis Hamikdash, the opposite from Beis Hamikdash. Because he's trying to answer why it's not Nika down here. The whole thing is what's happening Lamaila. So now we understand, answer all the kashas that the Rebbe asked in the first shot, the second shot, how it all fits, everything is answered. Now the Rebbe adds from the Nyoni Alocha, from the Pirish Rashi, from amongst the things in Alocha that we take out from this Rashi. So da machlekes Rishonim and das Abaye, as Mona Milsi, see as Mona bedibur Milsi or nicht. There is an argument Abaye Rebbe. When you designate something for a certain gedusha thing, like you designate something that should be tefillin, but no one ever wore it. It's just Hazmona, just designating. So Abaye says, Hazmona Milsi, that already is something, and B'meila, that object becomes holy, just by designating it. Rabbi says, Hazmona Lav Milsi, to designate something is not enough to make it holy. In Abaye's opinion itself, there is an argument with the Rishonim. Does the Hazmona, when you say you prepare it, you designate it, you set it aside, does it have to be with a Maise? According to Abaye, that without using it yet, it's already some kedusha. Is it if you did something to it, or dibur itself also? Just I said this is going to be used. This leather is going to be used for tefillin. So is that enough to say, according to Abaye, that hazmona is enough? Is that enough? So argument. What's the difference? Anyway, the halach is always like Rabbi. So anyway, hazmona is nothing, even if you did a ma'aseh. So what's negated to us to know whether, according to Abaye, if you do hazmana, milsi, if you do it, bedibur is good enough. So he says no. It's negela actually nalocha. Alech das Rove was halacha kemese. Says hazmana lab milsi, even according to Rove. That halacha is like Rove. We know in most places in Shas halacha like Rove, except 6 places. So the halacha is hazmana, just designating is not anything. There are all cases where we do count, even according to Rove, that the designation is enough, and the order 30 that brings a lot of examples here. So we have to know. So there's a machlekes Rishonim. Is dibur to be mazminit, to designate it with dibur by speaking is enough. That could be the difference in halacha between these two explanations, interpretations of Rashi that we learned. The tip should come to is, according to simple pshat comes out, ados vazemanti loselachem. That we learned in the first pshat in Rashi, he just says zamanti. Rashi changes from the word of the posek achinesi, because achinesi means he did something to change it. Zamanti means just designated. So it comes out that according to Rashi, the pshat that says I read designated, without doing anything to prepare to do something to the place. That is called in the posek achinesi. Even though really we're talking about what it means is designated, but we call it kachenesi. According to that, comes out as So it comes out that the posik calls the designation as a hachon. Now, hachon means you did something. And if you did something, it's strong. It has an effect. And here, it's only a designation. As we learned, that's what Rashi is trying to tell. And nevertheless, the Torah calls it hachon. So this shows that designation without doing anything is also similar to hachon, and b'meila, milsei, it's something. Sheker like medrash, according to the second pshat, the medrash, ider achinesi verbunden mit anufte, was is mikir in der Sach, beifem kenegdei. According to the second pshat, what does achinesi mean? Ataka changed. And it's something that I did. He did something to the makim. It's recognizable. If he says mistaber leimer, according to that, it would make sense as asmona b'dibur lav milsi. Asmona is not, because asmona, because achona is only a real achona. But if you do asmona, it doesn't say anywhere that this is achona. So it's very possible that this is not called achona because b'dibur is not enough. And in order 31, the Rebbe says, even though you can't bring out from here a real raya to a person's achona, b'dibur, because here we're talking about the Eibishter's Hasmone. The Eibishter's Hasmone is, even though it's not a Maise, but we know the Dibur of the Eibishter is like a Maise. So by the Eibishter, maybe you could say that Zimanti is called Achinesi, but by regular people not. But Al Kaponim, we see a connection here that we could learn out from here. But again, if you have Hasmone only B'Dibur, is it like a Hasmone B'Maise? Even according to Abai, even according to Rabbi.